Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The bass thrummed through my chest as I leaned against the bar, watching Victor's eyes travel down my dress. At 32, I still had it. The curves that made men look twice. The smile that could get me free drinks all night. My husband Edric sat in the corner booth, scrolling through his phone like always, completely ignoring me. "Another martini?" Victor asked, his hand brushing mine as he reached for his wallet. The wedding ring on my finger caught the neon lights, but I didn't pull away. "My husband should be buying my drinks," I said loud enough for Edric to hear. "But he's too busy with work to notice his wife." Victor laughed, a deep rumble that sent shivers down my spine. His loss is my gain, then. I'd met Victor at the gym 3 weeks ago. He was everything Edric wasn't. Spontaneous, flirtatious, dangerous. When he suggested meeting at the downtown club, I jumped at the chance. Maybe seeing another man interested in me would wake Edric up, make him fight for what he had. "Clytemne?" Edric's voice cut through the music. He stood behind me, his face tight with controlled anger. "We should go." "We just got here," I protested, not moving from Victor's side. Besides, Victor was just telling me about his photography business. "Weren't you, Victor?" Victor's smile widened. "Among other things." His hand settled on my lower back, fingers splayed possessively. Edric's jaw clenched. "I'm leaving. You can find your own way home." "Fine," I shouted over the music. "Maybe Victor can give me a ride." The hurt in Edric's eyes almost made me take it back. Almost. But then he turned and walked away without another word, and my anger flared hotter. 7 years of marriage, and he couldn't even fight for me? "Forget him," Victor murmured in my ear. "Dance with me." The dance floor was packed, bodies pressed together in the dim light. Victor's hands roamed freely as we moved, and I let him. The alcohol buzzed through my veins, making everything feel electric and dangerous. Other couples watched us, some with disapproval, others with envy. "Your husband's an idiot for leaving you here," Victor said, his lips brushing my neck. "He doesn't appreciate what he has," I replied, arching against him. The music pounded around us, and I felt alive for the first time in months. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Sabine. "Girl, you look hot tonight. Show him what he's missing." I smiled and pulled Victor closer. Someone was taking pictures, phones flashing in the crowd, but I didn't care. Let them look. Let them see that Clytemne Selwyn was still desirable, still worth fighting for. "Want to get some air?" Victor asked, his hand sliding down to cup my hip. Before I could answer, Tasha Lynn appeared beside us, Victor's girlfriend, though he'd conveniently forgotten to mention her when he was buying me drinks. "What the hell is this?" Tasha demanded, her dark eyes blazing with fury. Victor stepped back slightly, but kept one arm around my waist. "Tasha, calm down. We're just dancing." "Just dancing?" She laughed bitterly. "Your hands were all over her ass, Victor." "And you," she turned to me, "aren't you married?" "My marriage is none of your business," I snapped, the alcohol making me bold. "It is when you're throwing yourself at my boyfriend like a desperate housewife, having a midlife crisis." The words hit like a slap. Around us, people were starting to stare, phones still recording. But I was too angry to back down. "At least I don't have to chase after a man who clearly doesn't want me," I shot back. Tasha's face went white with rage. "You pathetic bitch. Your husband walked out on you, and now you're trying to steal mine? Look around. Everyone's watching you make a fool of yourself." That's when I noticed the crowd that had gathered. The phones pointed in our direction. The music seemed louder, the lights brighter, everything spinning slightly from the alcohol and adrenaline. "Come on, ladies," Victor said, trying to play peacemaker. "Let's not make a scene." But it was too late. The scene was already made, recorded, and probably being uploaded to social media as we spoke. I grabbed my purse and pushed through the crowd, my cheeks burning with embarrassment and rage. Outside, the cool night air hit me like a slap. The parking lot was nearly empty. Edric's car was gone, just like he'd promised. I called an Uber with shaking fingers, the reality of what had just happened starting to sink in. My phone buzzed with notifications. Facebook, Instagram, text messages. My heart sank as I opened the first video. There I was, grinding against Victor, while my wedding ring glinted in the club lights. The caption read, "Married woman getting nasty at Pulse tonight. Her husband left her there." 53 shares already, 112 comments. The Uber pulled up, and I climbed in on unsteady legs. The driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, probably wondering if I was going to throw up in his car. "Rough night?" he asked. "You have no idea," I muttered, watching the city lights blur past the window. At home, all the lights were off, except for the porch light Edric always left on for me. His car sat in the driveway like an accusation. I fumbled with my keys, dropping them twice before finally getting the door open. The house was silent. Edric's work shoes sat by the door, perfectly aligned like always. His jacket hung on the hook. His briefcase sat on the hall table. Everything normal, everything in its place, except for the marriage that was falling apart. I kicked off my heels and padded upstairs. Our bedroom door was closed, which never happened. I pressed my ear to it and heard nothing. When I tried the handle, it was locked. "Edric?" I whispered, then louder. "Edric, open the door." Silence. I knocked harder. "Don't be such a baby. Open the damn door." Still nothing. My phone buzzed again. More notifications, more shares, more comments from people who knew us. The video was spreading like wildfire through our social circle. I stumbled to the guest room and collapsed on the bed, still in my dress. The ceiling spun slowly above me as I tried to process what had happened. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Edric was supposed to fight for me, not abandon me. He was supposed to be jealous, not humiliated. My phone lit up with a call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail, then played the message with dread. "Clytemne, honey, Judith Harper from book club just sent me a video. Call me. We need to talk." I turned off the phone and pulled a pillow over my head. Tomorrow I would fix this. Tomorrow I would make everyone understand that it was just harmless fun, that Edric was overreacting, that our marriage was fine, but deep down, as sleep finally claimed me, I knew that everything had changed. The video was out there, permanent and damning. And for the first time in 7 years of marriage, I had no idea what my husband was thinking. The last thing I remembered before passing out was the sound of Edric's alarm clock going off at 5 a.m., just like every morning. Some things, at least, never changed. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Isla's cartoons downstairs. My head pounded like a bass drum, and my mouth tasted like regret and cheap vodka. The events of the previous night came flooding back in waves of nausea and shame. The guest room was bright with morning sunlight, my dress wrinkled and twisted around my body. I checked my phone, 11:47 a.m. 43 missed calls, over 200 text messages and notifications that made my stomach lurch. The video had been shared over 300 times. The comments were brutal. "Isn't that Clytemne from the PTA? Her poor husband. What a slut. I feel sorry for their kid. My husband would have dragged me out by my hair. Good for him for leaving her there." I stumbled to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. In the mirror, I looked exactly like what I was, a 32-year-old woman who had made terrible choices. My makeup was smeared, my hair looked like I'd stuck my finger in an electrical socket, and there were dark circles under my eyes that no concealer could hide. Downstairs, Isla sat at the kitchen table, eating cereal and watching cartoons on her tablet. At 7 years old, she was the perfect blend of Edric and me, his serious brown eyes, my stubborn chin. She looked up when I entered, her expression unreadable. "Daddy made me breakfast," she said quietly. "He said you were sick. Where is Daddy now?" "He went to work. He said he'd pick me up from school today." Edric never picked Isla up from school. That was my job, had been since she started kindergarten. He was sending a message, establishing new routines without consulting me. I poured coffee with shaking hands and sat across from my daughter. Isla, honey, did Daddy seem upset this morning? She shrugged, not looking up from her cereal. He was quiet. He's always quiet when you and him are fighting. We're not fighting, sweetheart. Adults just have disagreements sometimes. Mrs. Peterson's mom and dad had disagreements too. Then her dad moved to an apartment. The words hit me like ice water. I reached across the table and took Isla's small hand in mine. That's not going to happen to us, okay? Mommy and Daddy love each other very much. She pulled her hand away and went back to her cereal. Okay, but I could see she didn't believe me. Kids always knew, didn't they? They could sense the cracks in the foundation before the adults were ready to admit they existed. My phone rang. Sabine. I answered on the second ring. Oh my God, Clyde, are you okay? My sister's voice was breathless with excitement and concern. That video is everywhere. You looked amazing, by the way. That dress was perfect. I feel like death, I groaned, pressing my palm to my forehead. Where's Edric? Please tell me he's not being a complete drama queen about this. I glanced at Isla, who was pretending not to listen. Can we talk about this later? Little ears. Right. But seriously, you need to control this narrative before it gets out of hand. Post something on Facebook about having fun with friends, make it seem innocent. You know how people love to gossip. After Sabine hung up, I stared at my phone for a long time. The video played automatically when I opened Facebook. There I was, pressed against Viktor, his hands on my body, my wedding ring clearly visible as I ran my fingers through his hair. It didn't look innocent. It looked exactly like what it was. A married woman behaving badly. I typed and deleted a dozen different posts. What could I possibly say that would make this better? Had a great time dancing with friends last night. Thanks to everyone who made it such a fun evening. No, that sounded tone deaf. Some people need to mind their own business. Marriage is about trust, not control. Better. That put the focus on Edric being controlling, rather than my behavior being inappropriate. I hit post before I could second-guess myself. The responses came immediately. Most were supportive, my friends rallying around me, agreeing that Edric was being unreasonable. But there were others, friends of Edric's, family members, people from church who clearly disapproved. Miriam, Edric's mother, commented within minutes, "Trust is earned, not demanded. Some behavior speaks for itself." I deleted her comment immediately and blocked her from future posts. The last thing I needed was my mother-in-law stirring up more drama. My phone rang again. My mother this time. I couldn't avoid her forever. Clytemne Marie Harper, what in God's name were you thinking? Judith's voice was sharp with disappointment. Mom, it's not what it looks like. It looks like you were dry humping a stranger while your husband watched. What exactly am I missing? I moved to the living room away from Isla. Edric and I have been having problems. I was just trying to get his attention, make him realize what he might lose. By throwing yourself at another man in public? Honey, that's not how marriage works. You don't understand. He's been so distant lately, so cold. He comes home, eats dinner, watches TV, and goes to bed. We never talk, never go anywhere together. I felt invisible. There was a long pause. So, you decided to make yourself visible by humiliating your husband and embarrassing your family? The words stung because they were true. It wasn't supposed to go that far. Viktor was just buying me drinks, being nice to me. Edric got jealous and left, so I got angry. Viktor, you know this man's name. Clytemne. Please tell me this wasn't planned. I couldn't answer that. Because it had been planned, at least partially. I'd worn my sexiest dress, done my makeup perfectly, texted Viktor to make sure he'd be there. I'd wanted Edric to see other men finding me attractive. I need to go, Mom. Isla needs lunch. This isn't over. Your father and I are very disappointed. And if that video makes it to his workplace... She hung up without finishing the threat, but I knew what she meant. Dad was a deacon at our church. Mom taught Sunday school. My behavior reflected on them too. I made Isla a sandwich and tried to act normal, but my hands were shaking and my mind was racing. How many people had seen the video? How many people at Edric's work, at Isla's school, in our neighborhood? At 2:30, I drove to pick up Isla from school, but the office informed me that her father had already collected her. Another message, another change to our routine. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, watching other mothers pick up their children, wondering if they'd all seen the video, if they were talking about me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was a screenshot of the video with a message. Saw you getting cozy last night. Your husband know you're a cheating whore? Maybe I should tell him. Unless you want to be nicer to me too. I stared at the message in horror. Someone was threatening me, trying to blackmail me. But blackmail me for what? Money? Sex? The number wasn't one I recognized, and the profile picture was blank. I deleted the message and blocked the number, but the damage was done. If random strangers were messaging me, how far had this video spread? How many people were judging me, talking about me, making assumptions about my marriage? At home, I paced.
It was one time at the company retreat.
Your coworker posted a photo. You're wearing this shirt.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
The empty house like a caged animal. Edric's presence was everywhere. His coffee mug in the sink, his newspaper folded on the counter, his reading glasses on the side table. But the man himself was absent, taking our daughter with him. I called his office, but his secretary said he was in meetings all afternoon. I texted him, "We need to talk. This is getting out of hand." His response came an hour later. "I'll be home at 6. Isla is staying at my mother's tonight." My mother-in-law's house. The woman who had publicly called me out on Facebook, who had never liked me, who probably thought Edric was too good for me from the beginning. Now she had ammunition, and she had my daughter. I spent the afternoon cleaning frantically, as if scrubbing the baseboards could somehow clean up the mess I'd made. I changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on a conservative sweater and jeans, the picture of a devoted wife and mother. At exactly 6 p.m., I heard Edric's key in the lock. He entered quietly, hung up his jacket, and placed his briefcase by the door. When he looked at me, his face was completely neutral. No anger, no hurt, nothing. "We need to talk," I said. "Yes," he agreed. "We do." He sat on the couch, and I sat across from him in the chair. The distance between us felt like an ocean. "Edric, I'm sorry about last night. I had too much to drink, and I made some poor choices. But nothing happened. It was just dancing." He pulled out his phone and played the video. Watching it sober in the harsh light of our living room was excruciating. I looked drunk, desperate, pathetic. Viktor's hands were clearly groping me, and I was encouraging it. "Just dancing," he repeated flatly. "Yes, I was trying to make you jealous, to get your attention. I felt like you didn't care about me anymore. So you decided to humiliate me in front of our friends? To let another man put his hands all over you while you wore my ring? It wasn't like that." "What was it like, Clytemne?" Because from where I sat, it looked like my wife was auditioning to be someone else's mistress. The words hit like physical blows. "That's not fair. You left me there. You abandoned me." I removed myself from a situation where my wife was publicly betraying our marriage. I thought that was the mature thing to do. Betraying? We danced. We didn't even kiss. You let him touch you. You pressed your body against his. You flirted with him while I watched. What would you call that? I couldn't answer because he was right. I had betrayed him, betrayed our marriage, betrayed the vows we'd made 7 years ago in front of God and our families. "I was drunk," I said weakly. "Being drunk doesn't change who you are, Clytemne. It just removes your inhibitions. Last night, I saw who you really are when you think no one's watching. That's not true. I love you. I love our family." He was quiet for a long time, staring at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with a sadness that made my chest tight. "I don't think you do," he said quietly. "I think you love the idea of being married, the security of it, the respectability. But I don't think you love me. Not really." "How can you say that?" "Because if you loved me, you never could have done what you did last night. You couldn't have embarrassed me like that, hurt me like that. Love doesn't do that to the person it claims to cherish. I started to cry then, big ugly sobs that shook my whole body. Please don't say that, please. I made a mistake, but I can fix this. We can fix this. Edric stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. I don't know if we can. I don't know if I want to. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Outside, our neighbors were coming home from work, walking their dogs, living their normal lives while mine fell apart. What does that mean? I whispered. It means I need time to think. It means I can't look at you right now without seeing that video. It means I don't trust you anymore. Edric, please. It was one night, one mistake. He turned around, and the look on his face was one I'd never seen before. Cold, distant, final. Was it? Or was last night just the first time you got caught? The accusation hung between us like poison. He thought I was having an affair, that Viktor was more than just a gym acquaintance. That last night was the culmination of something that had been building for weeks. I've never cheated on you, I said firmly. Never. But you wanted to last night. If Viktor had asked you to leave with him, would you have gone? I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Because in that moment, drunk and angry and feeling desired for the first time in months, I might have. I might have thrown away 7 years of marriage for one night of feeling wanted. Edric saw the truth on my face. That's what I thought. He picked up his keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? To my mother's. To see my daughter. To think about what I want to do with the rest of my life. When will you be back? He paused at the door, his hand on the handle. I don't know. And then he was gone, leaving me alone in our house with the echoes of my own sobs and the weight of what I'd destroyed. The next morning brought a new level of hell. I woke up to 17 missed calls and a flood of text messages that made my stomach drop. The video hadn't just gone viral locally. It had spread to multiple social media platforms, been shared in community Facebook groups, and somehow made its way to a gossip blog that specialized in local drama. The headline read, "Cheating wife gets abandoned at club after husband catches her with another man." Below it was a still frame from the video, my face clearly visible as Viktor's hands gripped my waist. I called in sick to work, unable to face the knowing looks and whispered conversations. My job as an administrative assistant at a small marketing firm was boring, but it paid the bills and gave me health insurance. I couldn't afford to lose it, but I also couldn't bear the thought of walking into that office. My phone rang constantly, friends wanting gossip, family members demanding explanations, unknown numbers that I was afraid to answer. I turned it off and tried to eat breakfast, but everything tasted like sawdust. At 9 a.m., there was a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw Tasha Lynn standing on my porch, her face set in hard lines. My heart sank. This was the last person I wanted to see. I considered not answering, but she knocked again, harder this time. I know you're in there, Clytemne. We need to talk. Reluctantly, I opened the door. Tasha looked like she hadn't slept either. Her usually perfect makeup, absent, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. What do you want? I asked, not inviting her in. I want you to stay away from Viktor, permanently. I don't know what you're talking about. She laughed bitterly. Don't play dumb. I saw the texts. My blood ran cold. What texts? She pulled out her phone and scrolled through screenshots. The ones where you've been flirting with my boyfriend for 3 weeks. The ones where you invited him to the club. The ones where you told him your husband doesn't appreciate you. I stared at the evidence of my own stupidity. There it was in black and white. Weeks of increasingly flirtatious messages, complaints about Edric, hints that I was available if Viktor was interested. It wasn't serious, I said weakly. Serious enough that you threw yourself at him in public. Serious enough that you destroyed your marriage for him. My marriage problems have nothing to do with Viktor. Bullshit. You targeted him because you knew he was with me. You wanted to prove you could steal someone else's man because yours wasn't paying attention to you. The accusation stung because it was partially true. Viktor being unavailable had made him more appealing, more dangerous. I'd enjoyed the thrill of flirting with someone else's boyfriend. Look, I'm sorry about the club, I was drunk and stupid. It won't happen again. You're damn right it won't, because Victor and I are moving to Portland next month. His job transfer came through and we're getting married. The news hit me like a slap. Victor was leaving, getting married, moving on with his life while mine lay in ruins. I destroyed my marriage for a man who saw me as nothing more than a temporary distraction. Congratulations, I managed. I don't want your congratulations. I want your promise that you'll leave us alone. No more texts, no more showing up at the gym, no more trying to seduce my fiancé. Fine, whatever. I don't want Victor anyway. Tasha studied my face for a long moment. You know what's really sad? You had a good man who loved you, and you threw it away for someone who was just using you for entertainment. Victor laughed about you, Clytemne. He called you a desperate housewife who was easy to manipulate. Each word was a knife to my chest. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself this. If Victor cared about you at all, why isn't he here defending you? Why hasn't he called or texted since the video went viral? Why is he letting his girlfriend clean up his mess? I couldn't answer because she was right. Victor had vanished the moment things got complicated, leaving me to face the consequences alone. Stay away from us, Tasha said, turning to leave, and maybe get some therapy. You clearly have issues you need to work out. After she left, I sat on my couch and cried until I had no tears left. The full scope of my stupidity was becoming clear. I'd risked everything for a man who didn't care about me, who'd probably been planning to dump me the moment I became inconvenient. My phone buzzed with a text from Sabine. How are you holding up? Want me to come over? I called her back, desperate for a friendly voice. This is so much worse than I thought, I sobbed when she answered. What happened now? I told her about Tasha's visit, about Victor's engagement, about the gossip blog, and the spreading video. Okay, first of all, breathe, Sabine said. This will blow over. People have short attention spans. Something else will happen and everyone will forget about this. My husband won't forget. Edric will come around. He loves you. He's just hurt right now, but he'll get over it. I don't think he will. You should have seen his face, Sabine. He looked at me like he didn't even know me. Because he's being dramatic. Men always overreact to this stuff because their egos get bruised. Give him a few days to cool off, then grovel a little. Buy him something nice. Cook his favorite dinner. Remind him why he married you. Her advice felt hollow, but I clung to it anyway. Maybe she was right. Maybe Edric just needed time to process what had happened. Maybe our marriage wasn't as broken as it felt. Have you talked to Mom? I asked. She called me this morning. She's worried about you, but she's also pretty angry. Dad's getting questions at church, and you know how he hates gossip. Great. Now I was embarrassing my parents too. The ripple effects of that one night kept expanding, touching everyone I cared about. I should probably call them. Maybe wait a day or two. Let things settle down first. After we hung up, I tried to distract myself with cleaning and organizing, but my mind kept wandering back to the video, to Edric's face when he left, to the growing pile of consequences I'd have to face. At 3 p.m., I decided to pick up Isla from school. I needed to see my daughter, to hold on to something good in my life. But when I arrived at the school, the office staff looked at me strangely. Mrs. Selwyn, your husband already picked up Isla. He said she'd be staying with her grandmother for a few days. He what? He had the proper paperwork. Is there a problem? I forced a smile. No problem. I just forgot. But there was a problem. Edric was making unilateral decisions about our daughter, without consulting me. He was establishing a new normal that didn't include me, and I was powerless to stop it. I drove home in a daze, the empty house feeling more like a prison with each passing hour. My phone had 17 new notifications, more shares of the video, more comments, more strangers weighing in on my personal life. One comment made me stop cold. Isn't this the woman who volunteers at St. Mark's Elementary? Someone should tell the school board. My blood turned to ice. If this video reached Isla's school, if other parents complained, if the administration decided I was a bad influence, I could lose my volunteer position, could be banned from school events, could be publicly humiliated in front of my daughter's classmates and teachers. I immediately called the school, but the office was closed for the day. I'd have to wait until tomorrow to do damage control. to try to explain away what couldn't be explained. That evening, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the detritus of my normal life. Isla's toys, Edric's books, family photos that now seemed like artifacts from a happier time. The silence was deafening. My phone rang. Edric's name appeared on the screen, and my heart leaped with hope. Hello? Clytemne, we need to discuss some practical matters. His voice was cold, businesslike. This wasn't a reconciliation call. Okay. I'll be staying at my mother's for the foreseeable future. Isla will be with me. You can see her on weekends, supervised. Supervised? Edric, I'm her mother. You're also someone who makes poor decisions and puts herself in dangerous situations. Until I know you're stable, I'm not comfortable leaving Isla alone with you. The words hit like physical blows. You can't do this. You can't take my daughter away from me. I'm not taking her away. I'm protecting her. There's a difference. From what? I made one mistake. One bad night. That doesn't make me an unfit mother. One bad night that's now public record. One bad night that her classmates' parents have probably seen. One bad night that could affect her for years. I hadn't thought about that. How this would impact Isla at school, with her friends in our community. 7-year-olds were cruel enough without ammunition. Please don't punish her for my mistakes, I whispered. I'm not punishing her. I'm protecting her. Just like I should have protected myself. What does that mean? There was a long pause. It means I've spoken to a lawyer, Clytemne. It means I'm exploring my options. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in shock. A lawyer. Edric had spoken to a lawyer. This wasn't just a separation. This was the beginning of